What's going on, y'all? In today's episode of 2025 NFL schedule predictions, we have the Denver Broncos.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
So the Broncos are coming off their best campaign since 2015 when they had Payton Manning, that no-fly zone defense, Von Miller, and they won the Super Bowl. This past year, they went 10-7. They did get smacked out of the playoffs in the wild card round versus the Bills, but this team has shown some major improvement under second-year head coach Sean Payton. Going into Payton's third year as head coach, I expect the Broncos to continue improving, and PFF actually has this team as the 8th ranked roster in the league this year. I think they've had a pretty good offseason so far. Not too many crazy additions or departures. They picked up Dre Greenlaw and Taloa Hufanga. They also signed Evan Ingram to give them their much needed improvement at that tight end position. I thought they had a pretty solid draft. I really liked the Jahdae Barron pick to put him on the other side of Pat Surtain in that secondary. Also, RJ Harvey was a really good addition there at running back after they lost Javonte Williams. Pat Bryant will give them another young body there on that wide receiver core. I think right now at their wide receiver position, they have a lot of upside in youth. So assuming Bo Nix continues his trajectory from his rookie season, this guy is looking like he could become something pretty special, a future Pro Bowler for sure. Outside of Courtland Sutton, they really only have Mims, Pat Bryant, and then you have guys like Troy Franklin and Devon Vele. They have high upside, but you'd like to see a really solid wide receiver too there. So hopefully someone can emerge. Could emerge as a top target outside of like Courtland Sutton and Evan Ingram this year. I'm also not too sure about their running backs position. They got RJ Harvey in the draft. They also still have McLaughlin and J.K. Dobbins on the roster. I'm really not the highest on that running backs core. What I do have a lot of optimism for the Broncos is their trenches. Their offensive line is amazing. I don't really think they need an all-pro caliber running back to have success in this running game. And their defensive line is amazing. PFF has them graded as the 8th ranked defensive line. Last year, they led the whole NFL in sacks. I believe they had like 63, 64 sacks. Absolutely insane. They just have an absurd amount of depth on that defensive line. You got Zach Allen, Franklin Myers, bunch of really good D linemen. And the last group that really stands out is their secondary. Now, other than Pat Surtain and Jahdae Barron, who I think are going to be 1 and 2, you don't really have a ton of depth back there. You got guys like Riley Moss, but you just really got to hope that those top two stay healthy, and I think they'll have a pretty productive secondary. So now that we got a little bit of the housekeeping out of the way, the Denver Broncos this season are projected to win 9.5 football games. Let's go ahead and break down this schedule and see if that's going to happen.
Let's ride.
So I think the Broncos actually have a pretty favorable opening to this schedule. That's going to be nice because you really want to see if Bo Nix's success is going to translate into his second season. You always hear about sophomore slumps, but the way that this guy showed poise in those football games last year, I do have high hopes for him coming back in the second year and repeating a lot of what he did last year, being able to get the Broncos into position to make the playoffs. So here in week 1, we have a home game. This is versus Tennessee. I like Denver in this one. There is potential for upset here just because it's week 1. You never know what's going to happen. There's always some crazy game that goes down early in the season. But I like Denver in that one. And I also like Denver on the road in Indianapolis. I'm not too high on Indy this season. You don't know who's going to be their starting quarterback, if it's going to be Danny Dimes or Anthony Richardson. I think they're still going to be figuring it out pretty early in the season here. So go ahead and give me Denver in week 2 on the road. Now this week 3 game is kind of a toss-up. It's divisional and it's on the road in Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles and Denver are going to be pretty toe-to-toe this season. With that being said, I do like Denver early in the season. Even though this is on the road, I'm going to go ahead and chalk this one up as a W. And this is where things get kind of crazy. So we have a home Monday night football game. This is versus Cincinnati. Now, we all remember what happened 2 years ago when the NFL gave Denver like 12 primetime games. It was horrible. Nowadays, I think this team is going to be entertaining to watch, and I'm definitely going to be tuned into this one. I actually think the Broncos get it done here in week 4 at home. But then I think the Broncos have themselves a little come to Jesus moment when they run into Philadelphia on the road here. Coming off that Super Bowl win, I obviously have to be pretty high on Philly this year. I think Philly beats Denver in week 5, handing them their first loss of the season. Now in week 6, we have a pretty interesting one. This is a London game, and it's against the New York Jets. So even though it's an away game, it's kind of still neutral. You don't know how either of these teams are really going to travel. I mean, if I had to put my money on it, I'd say Denver probably has a bigger fan base than the Jets, but I wouldn't count on the crowd really affecting this one too much. Because this one's kind of a toss-up, I could definitely see either team coming away with this one. I just have a feeling that because this one is in London, some funny stuff might happen. I think the Jets actually have a good shot at taking down the Broncos. I went ahead and gave this one to New York. Now, I don't think this New York team is going to be as fortunate as the Jets were because they have to go on the road in Denver. I think Denver smacks around the Giants pretty good in this one. I'm going to go ahead and give the dub to the Broncos.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
In my last video, I already kind of touched on why I think the Broncos are going to beat the Cowboys. Cowboys actually haven't beaten Denver in 30 years. I think that trend kind of continues here. This is at home versus Dallas. I think the Broncos get this one done for their second win in a row here in Week 8. However, I do not see the Broncos beating Houston. Houston's defense is just some wicked business. I think Houston's going to be able to stop Denver here. We might see a little bit of slight exposing coming out of Bo Nix. This game's going to be a testament to whose offensive or defensive line is better because Houston has a nasty defensive line and Denver has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. At the end of the day, I think Houston might just be a little too good for Denver and it's on the road in Houston. I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Texans. I think the Broncos rebound here pretty quick coming off of a short week. This is a Thursday night football game versus Las Vegas. Last year, the Broncos pretty thoroughly put belt to ass against the Raiders. This year, I do see the Raiders being a little bit better. I like Geno better than AOC or Gardner Minshew, but I do think that the Broncos are going to be able to get this done on the short week at home. Last year, Denver split with Kansas City, but that last game didn't really mean anything. Kansas City was resting everyone for the playoffs. I keep saying in a lot of these videos, I'm not seeing the same Kansas City this NFL season as we have seen the past 4 or 5 years. I like the Broncos in the home game versus Kansas City this year, so I'm going to go ahead and chalk this one up as a win for them. I think this game's going to showcase Sean Payton's expertise and his years at head coach. I think his knowledge is going to be all the Broncos need to get it done versus Kansas City here. I think they're going to be able to get things done in the trenches and go ahead and take a win in this game.
Run.
Now, coming out of the bye week, they have a road game at Washington. I think this was a good time for the bye. Because of that, I think the Broncos are going to be able to get this one done. It's a toss-up. This is a Sunday Night Football primetime game. If they're able to stop Jaden Daniels and that Washington rushing attack, they're going to be able to win this game. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Broncos their third consecutive win here coming out of the bye. Like I said earlier, though, I think Las Vegas has improved enough to take a sneaky win here against the Broncos. This is at Las Vegas, so I'm going to go ahead and give this divisional win to the Raiders. This is another 50-50 game after this one. I could totally see Green Bay winning, but just because I have enough faith in Denver's defense to stop them on this night, I'm going to go ahead and give the Broncos a win here to rebound off that loss in Las Vegas.
David, I said don't get behind him. Get out. Get up here in front of him.
Now, the home game that follows here in Week 16 versus Jacksonville could definitely be a trap game for the Broncos, but I think their roster is just a little bit better than Jacksonville right now. I also like Denver in this one. I'm going to go ahead and chalk this one up as a win here going into a road game at Kansas City on Thursday night. This one's going to be tricky, no doubt about it. It's Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City late in the season when with playoffs on the line. You don't want to bet against Pat with all those factors going in his favor. Go ahead and give me Kansas City in this Week 17 matchup. And I also think the Chargers get it done here in Week 18. This is a home game for Denver, so the atmosphere is going to be pretty rough for the Chargers going into this one in Week 18. But I think the Chargers are going to take this divisional. And I don't think Justin Herbert and the Chargers are no slouch. I think they're also a playoff team. So I'm going to have to go ahead and give the Broncos a loss here, their last game of the season. So, as you can see, I have the Broncos going 11-6 this year, further improving on last year's 10 wins. And I think that playoff whooping last year against the Bills is going to be able to light that fire under this team. And I could see the Broncos actually winning themselves a playoff game or two this year. I feel pretty confident that Bo Nix is going to be able to return this year as a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And I really like Denver's roster. So yeah, I'm seeing a ceiling of anywhere between 11 and 12 wins. This is kind of on the higher side. But I think this team realistically only has a floor of maybe 8 or 9 wins. So I think this is going to be a pretty good team this year. But you guys go ahead and let me know what y'all think. Go ahead and drop it down in the comments what y'all see coming out of the Broncos this year. As for Vegas's line of 9.5 wins, I'm going to have to go ahead and tell you guys to smack the over on this one. But alright, y'all, that's going to do it for today's episode of NFL Schedule Predictions. If y'all would, please go ahead and drop me a like and go ahead and subscribe. And we'll see y'all in the next one. We got the Detroit Lions. Stay tuned.